Hey YouTube, how is it going today? In this video, I'm going to be doing my monthly update for my M1 Finance account in my journey to grow this account to 6 figures for April of 2021. Now, if you're new to my channel, I've been trading and investing for over 20 years, and in every video, I'll show you some of the potential trades and investments that I see setting up. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. And I also have a Patreon group, so if you would like to be a part of our community and see what we are buying and selling in real time, that link is in the description. If this is your first time watching this M1 account update series, the objective of this portfolio is to reach an account value of over $100,000 and $500 a month in dividends by the end of 2025. The rules for this account are: I make 2 $100 contributions a week and an extra contribution on days when the S&P 500 closes down more than 2%. Usually that contribution is also $100, but sometimes it's more depending on the market conditions. The reasons why I make that extra contribution on big down days is because studies show that in the past that will increase your portfolio's return by double digits in the long run without adding much more money. Now I'll link an article in the description explaining why that is if you want to know more. I know these are lofty goals, especially on the dividend side, but I'd rather have high goals and miss them than low goals and hit them, right? Now, before I get into the performance of my M1 Finance account, I did make a change this month and I added PLTR to the portfolio. I'm starting them out at a 3% weighting, and I'm most likely going to look to increase that in the future because I am very bullish on PLTR, and I'm thinking they're going to be a great company to hold on to for the rest of the decade. Now, I'm also adding PLTR to some of my other accounts, and I also did a video on PLTR that I will link at the end of this video if you want to learn more about them. All right, so let's jump over to my M1 Finance account's homepage and take a look how the portfolio did for the month of April. And in last month's video, the portfolio had a value of $20,138 and had a money-weighted return of 108%. And this month it rose to $22,451, and the money-weighted return rose to 121%. So it had a decent little bump up for the month of April, but the market was a little bit stronger in April, so that is to be expected. And if we look at the 1 month totals a little closer, we can see that the account had a gain of $1,188 and had a return of 5.73%, and I earned almost $50 in dividends, $49.07. And this account is about 16 months old or so, but I can remember last year around this time, my dividends were probably only around 25 cents each. So the dividends are really starting to pile up, and that's just gonna, help increase my portfolio's return going forward. So I'm really looking forward to those dividends continuing to snowball and seeing how it makes the account grow even faster in the future. Now let's take a look at some of my better performers for the month. My number one performer for the month was Snapchat, which was up 24.61%. My second best performer was Square, which was up 15.03%. Third best performer was CRISPR, up 14%. Fourth best performer was Tesla at up 11%, and then Apple, which was up almost 10%. Now, last month, my best performers were mostly dividend stocks. My number one performer was Waste Management, followed by Dominion, 3M, Peak Properties, and AT&T. So we can see there was definitely a little bit more of a rotation back to tech for this month. So that is a good thing for not only my portfolio, but for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are more heavily weighted in tech at the moment. And if we flip it around and look at my laggers for the month, we can see my worst performer again was Baidu. Baidu was also my number one worst performer last month. This month it was down only 3.6%, so not terrible. And then Grow Generation, which has been one of my better stocks, was down actually 1.6% as my second worst performer. Verizon was down almost 0.25%, followed by the Vanguard Total International Bond Fund, which was down, almost nothing, and then followed by Disney, which was actually up right around 0.25%. So that is actually pretty rare for one of my top losers to actually be up for the month. But you know, it was a pretty decent month for the most part. And actually, let's take a look at the entire portfolio's total gains, and we can see that Tesla leads the way, up 939% since the inception. Snapchat is number 2 at almost 600%. Square is number 3, up 434%. CRISPR up 208%, and of course, Grow Generation, which has been a great stock for me, even though it is on the lagger list for this month, up 207%. Now, if we scroll all the way down and take a look at the stock that I added this month, it is Palantir. Palantir is up almost 1%. And I'm starting out at 3% of the portfolio. Right now, it's at 2.2, so it's going to be continuing to buy a little heavier into Palantir until it gets to that 3%. And if Palantir ever dips down below $20 a share, I am definitely going to raise it up to at least 5% of the portfolio, because I am very bullish on Palantir. And I do think that Palantir could drop below 20, and if it does, I'm going to make sure to add a lot to not only this account, but my other accounts, because I am very bullish on that company, and I don't want to miss out on Palantir going forward. But let's get into some of the charts of some of the better performing stocks and some of the worst performing stocks, and let's see if we can tell where they could be going in the future. All right, so let's jump over to my TC2000 charting software and take a look at some of these stocks. We'll take a look at some of the best performers and the worst performers and see where these stocks could be going into the future. And of course, if they are poor performers, we want to take a look and see if there's anything to be worried about or if it's just a regular pullback. But the first one I want to show you is Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR. This is the one that I added to the portfolio this month, and it's becoming one of my newest, most favorite investments. The more I read about this company, the more excited I get. But if we look at this chart is typically a bearish type formation. It looks like usually when a stock makes this type of pattern, it looks like they're going to break this support level. And if Palantir does that, it's going to be into the teens. Now, the longer this stock hangs around above 20, I think the better it is for Palantir, and the stock does have a cult-like following already. So I'm sure that I am not the only one looking at this chart, and I bet a lot of other people are thinking if this thing breaks 20, they are going to jump in and start buying with both hands. And it probably won't be below 20 for long unless we get some kind of, pretty steep market correction. But if it does drop below 20, I do want to jump in and grab some more, and I will be buying probably quite heavily the longer it stays under 20. But Palantir is definitely one of my newest, most favorite investments. I highly recommend you look into them if you don't know anything about Palantir, because I think they have a very bright future. All right, well, let's jump over to Snapchat. Snapchat was my #1 performer for the month, and we can see that Snapchat started to roll over last month, but then it had a nice little turnaround, and then they also came out with their earnings this month, and their earnings were fantastic. So actually, the stock probably should be up more, but during earnings season, you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes they come out with great earnings and they're down. Sometimes their earnings are a little blah and they're up. So, I mean, it's anyone's guess which way things are going to go. But judging by Snapchat's earnings, they were absolutely dynamite. I would expect this stock to be at a new all-time high before too long if the market itself remains strong. I expect Snapchat to be one of the leaders in the technology sector because the numbers were just dynamite. And it's already looking like it's starting to round up and head towards a new high ground. We'll have to be watching it next week just to make sure that it does continue to perform strong, and the market as well. But the market looks like it's pretty solid, so I expect Snapchat to keep going up. My next best performer was Square. And Square was a good performer because they were hammered in March. And then, of course, they had that huge move up in the beginning of April, pulled back some of it. But, I mean, this thing was in the low 200s and then ran all the way up to almost 280 in just a couple of weeks. Now it's pulled back to 244. So I think Square is going to continue to move sideways and consolidate, which, of course, is a good thing. Once you have this huge move up, what you want to do is see the stock take a breather and go sideways. You don't want to see huge pullbacks. And the longer that Square goes sideways, the better it is going to be for that company. So very happy with Square. The next one was CRISPR. Now this one was a little bit concerning the month before because it did have this enormous pullback from 220 all the way down to the low 100s by the end of March. It actually went below that in the beginning of March. But it started to make this triangle consolidation, which is, when you make it after a large pullback, in my experience, this thing can kind of go either way, and it's looking like it's starting to break to the upside. So I am optimistic that CRISPR is going to start moving higher and get up towards this resistance right around $160 or so. And that's what I need to happen. I'd rather not have this stock break down below 100, because if it does break down below 100, in the short term, it's definitely looking pretty sketch. I mean, I know a lot of people are very optimistic about this space in the future, but if this thing breaks 100, I think in the short term, it's definitely going to have a lot more pressure. So I've got a sharp eye on CRISPR Therapeutics at the moment, and I'm really hoping that it can bust above this 138 level and start heading towards 160. And I think that would be very healthy for CRISPR. But I am optimistic for CRISPR in the long term, even though I hate to see my stocks pulling back this hard, because I know it gives me a better chance to buy in at lower prices. But sometimes when stocks have these huge pullbacks, they can kind of make you wonder, is there something going on underneath the hood that I need to know about? Or is this just an incredible buying opportunity? So I'm continuing to watch CRISPR. Think CRISPR could get higher soon. The next one I wanted to show you was Tesla, which is my number 4 best performing stock. And Tesla also came out with some pretty decent earnings and looked like they got bought up pretty well towards the end of the day on a Friday. And it jumped back above that 50-period simple moving average, that blue line on the chart. So Tesla is, as far as this chart goes, it's looking like it could go either way as well, because every time this stock starts to get going, it just seems like it sells off again. And even though the earnings were pretty good, in my opinion, it's still sold off anyway. So Tesla is one worth keeping an eye on. I'm definitely not going to be selling this stock. I hope this thing goes lower so I can continue to buy more. But Tesla continues to be, pretty choppy in the short term. So I would just expect more volatility from Tesla. But if it goes down, I will certainly be adding more. And the last one, the last one in my best performers was Apple. And Apple actually came out with unbelievable earnings. I don't know if you got a chance to see those or not, but they were absolutely incredible. But of course, the stock sold off on it. Didn't sell off huge, but it did sell off on the news. But Apple's had a fantastic performance over the last couple of years. So, I mean, you can't expect the thing to just keep going up and up and up and up forever. I mean, I expect this thing to kind of go sideways and then maybe make a little bit more of a cup and a handle type of bottom, and then start cranking out new highs pretty soon. But Apple, if it continues to get weak, I will continue to buy more. Now, let's get to the dogs. My biggest dog was Baidu. And Baidu just continued to sell off. Baidu is under pressure because of delisting rumors on some of these Chinese stocks. I was actually surprised that Alibaba wasn't on one of my top 5 worst performers for the month, because they have been getting shellacked on that as well. But Baidu has really been getting crushed. And Baidu had this huge run, back from November, went from about $130 up to about $350 within just a couple of months. And now it's, given back most of that. So, I do think that this is going to blow over. I do think that these Chinese companies are probably going to do what the U.S. is requiring them to do as far as their accounting practices, and I think this is going to end up being a good buying opportunity in some of these Chinese stocks. All I hold in this portfolio is Baidu and Alibaba, and those of course, are 2 of the more stronger names in China, so I'm happy to be buying these on pullbacks, and I think that they're probably going to be much higher in the future. All right, my number 2 dog was Grow Generation. And Grow Generation is in the Mary Jane space, of course. They supply the companies that grow it with all the things that they need to grow it. So, I mean, this company should continue to grow well in the future. And it is getting a little bit choppy. It's getting very volatile. It made that high in February above $65 a share, pulled back all the way down to the mid-30s, jumped all the way back up to almost 60, and this thing is just really starting to chop around. Looks like some of the volatility is starting to come out of it, so it's kind of getting to one of those inflection points where does this thing just continue to go sideways and start to consolidate to move higher, or does it roll over? I mean, right now it is at a very difficult spot in the chart to call. I mean, this thing could easily break down or it could easily break up. So I'll be keeping a sharp eye on Grow Generation. But I am very optimistic for the Grow Generation in the future, so I probably won't be making any moves with them. The next one was Verizon, which was kind of surprising. But, you know, my losers for the month, they really weren't down that much. So Verizon kind of went sideways. And Verizon pays a pretty decent dividend. I think right now they're right around 4.5%. So I have no plans on getting rid of Verizon. They're pretty rock solid, especially when it comes to that dividend. And I would expect them to break through this long-term consolidation before too long. And once it breaks above 62 or 63, I think this thing could go on a pretty decent run to the upside. But it's been mired in this consolidation ever since 2018. And you know what they say, the longer a consolidation goes, the bigger and better the breakout becomes. So I think once Verizon does break out of this long consolidation, hopefully to the upside, it's going to be a pretty nice move. The next one was the bond fund. There's really no need to look at that one. That one's kind of boring. And then Disney was my 5th worst performer. And you can see Disney has just had a massive run since the pandemic lows. So even though this is on the worst performing list for the month with a tiny gain, absolutely not concerned about Disney at all. Just a fantastic looking chart, and I expect Disney to continue to get stronger as the reopening in the economy continues.
All right, guys, well, that's all I have for this video, so I'm going to end it right there. But if you have any questions about any of these stocks, or if you have any other stocks you want me to take a look at, please leave them down there in the comment section. I will get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, guys, and until next time, take care.